Is it okay if I sleep in your bed tonight? We've been friends since childhood, and honestly, I've been having some horrible, blood-filled, nauseating nightmares lately. Wait a minute. Would your nauseating nightmares have anything to do with the sudden uptick of rats that have been plaguing and destroying the lives of the citizens of our city? And if not, who's been flicking the lights on and off? Nosferatu. Nosferatu is the latest film from writer director Robert Eggers, who did The Witch or The Vavitch. Thanks very much, Derb. I hope you have a great Christmas, because I watched this on Christmas, and thank you so much. I'll never be able to unsee that, but it did introduce me to Anya Taylor-Joy, and I'll be forever grateful to The Vavitch. So he also did The Lighthouse. This certainly was unique. It had Willem Dafoe in it, and boy, oh boy, speaking of Willem Dafoe, he's in this. And also The Northman. It was probably the most commercialized of Robert Eggers' vision. I mean, let's be perfectly honest, that movie was absolutely captivating, tremendous, just absolutely blood-soaked, and just absolutely captivatingly gorgeous, and that's just Anya Taylor-Joy. But nevertheless, it failed at the box office. So hopes were high that Robert Eggers would return to his art house but commercial appeal style of filmmaking with the latest rendition of Nosferatu. If you're not familiar with Nosferatu, I really don't know what to tell you. I'll give you the baseline, which is it's set in the 1800s, specifically in Germany, though there are a few other location shots where there is a man named Thomas Hunter, this time played by Nicholas Hoult, who has had one hell of a goddamn year. He's had one hell of a goddamn decade so far. And he is charged by his boss to go off, leave his wife, Ellen Hunter. Geez, I know, they have the same last name. What sorcery is this? Played by Lily Rose Depp. And she is basically left to her nightmares, her friends, and also this like darkness is just seeping and coming and descending upon their particular hamlet. And the city will not be the same again. A darkness that leaves nothing but death and destruction in its wake. If you can't figure out what Nosferatu is just by looking at the poster, then I don't know what to tell you. So that is the baseline for those that are not all that familiar. It's a gothic tale. It is, it has to do with people trying to deal with, various vicious things going on. Well, specifically one vicious thing, and then the madness that people deal with when coming into contact with this ancient evil. And look, that's all I can really do for the non-spoiler stuff, or at least like those that aren't familiar with it. It's based on the work of Bram Stoker and Henrik Galeen. Remember 1922? If you do, my God, you're old. They did a silent version of that. Werner Herzog did one in 1979 that I retro-reviewed. They even did a parody, Shadow of the Vampire, that actually was kind of funny. And The Last Voyage of the Demeter. Yeah, this is all based around vampires. If you didn't figure that out, I don't know what to tell you. So nothing in this movie is anything except familiar as far as from a story element standpoint. Where the strength of Robert Eggers' vision lies is basically his ability to use light, shadows, some nice washed out looks, and some excellent cinematography, and some great splashes of violence. And people basically saying dialogue that so many others have said on film, in television series, and also on stage. I mean, this thing has been told time and time and time and time again. Now, this is a bit longer than the Werner Herzog version, where we get a few expanded points. I do think that it could have used a little bit of tightening up. I think 2 hours and 12 minutes is a bit much, but that's with end credits, but nevertheless. Let's talk about the rest of the cast. So you have Bill Skarsgård as Count Orlok. Yeah, that's a creative name, isn't it? I'll say this much, he at least looks the part. I mean, not that the other guys didn't, but Robert Eggers definitely using the technology, the prosthetics, and his ability of love for the source material, along with his tremendous filmmaking ability. I mean, I love Robert Eggers as a filmmaker, don't get me wrong. Aaron Taylor Johnson, hey, at least he isn't Craven the Hunter in this. Willem Dafoe, Emma Corrin, who I need to check out more of her stuff because actually she wasn't all that bad in this, and Ralph Ineson, who's just great. So it's a great cast. And there are elements in this that work, unlike, in other versions. I still need to go back and completely rewatch the silent version, which I haven't done in quite a while. But I decided to go out and watch this Christmas morning. Why? Why not? I mean, I have only watched just over 330 movies as of this particular recording. So why not and go for another one? And I will say that as far as aesthetic, as far as look, as far as atmosphere, it's incredible. This really does draw you into the atmosphere of the whole thing. The problem lies in the fact that the story is just not that fucking interesting, and I don't really care if anybody gets upset about that. It is not that it is a bad movie, it's actually a pretty good movie. But for everybody's like, oh, this is, it's a throwback, it's this. Yeah, there are throwbacks and there's this, but you have done so many stories or so many spins on the story. What else can you do? And also, and I'm not knocking Lily Rose Depp. I think she has some good scenes in this, but the rumor is Anya Taylor-Joy is supposed to be in this. This movie needed Anya Taylor-Joy. Nothing against Lily Rose Depp, but I think Anya would have done a whole lot better here. I think that there, are some good atmospheric shots. I think Nicholas Hoult does a good job once he gets to Count Orlok's castle and telling the story of the fact that there's tie, to the past, that Orlok has particular tastes, ironic for a vampire, and I think that there are parts that work in this, but there are also so many familiar tropes that eventually it could wear down on your patience. Now, does it end about the same as the others? Well, you'll have to find out in the spoilers, but I will say it works mostly. Bit odd they released this around Christmas. I would have thought they would have tried to maybe release this in late October, early November. It'll get awards for the technical aspects, and the acting at times is pretty good, and at other times is laborious and languid. So that's really all I have to say right there. I'm going to get into spoilers, but yeah, there's not really all that much to spoil. I'm just going to talk about some of the violence and some of the other stuff. But nevertheless, it's in theaters right now, 3, 2, 1, spoilers. So basically, Thomas has proven to be, yes, he's desperate to make his wife happy and build a life and everything, but he obviously can't tell that his fucking, boss is completely off his goddamn tits. Sending him to a completely different place to talk to Count Orlok because Count Orlok demands to be able to sign this particular deed before being able to, take up residence in this particular place in Germany. And as far as the look and feel of the 1980s, the 1880s, it captured it perfectly. Again, Robert Eggers and his ability to just have, great atmosphere and great sets and everything and make the world feel alive. He does that. He nails that shit perfectly. Lily Rose Depp does have a few decent scenes in this, but there are just other times where I'm like, I didn't buy into this. She's not any, she's not her. Not her. Not Isabel. She's not her. And she was in the 1979 Werner Herzog. Who would not go to fucking... This movie's a little bit different. Possession's a lot better. But I digress. Now, basically, the problem is the doctor, Ralph Ineson, and then you have Professor Franz. He has a whole other name, but that would just take forever to pronounce. Willem Dafoe's was his teacher. He's kind of into the occult now. Ralph Ineson tries to go with science and reason. But then you have, the familiar, the knock, Renfield, basically. You have this guy that has basically arranged all this for Orlok to be able to come over and feast on more people and have a bride and have everything he wants and also maybe be able to cut a swath of violence across Europe. And that's pretty much what we have here. Thomas ends up falling under his spell because Thomas, to his credit, at least Nicholas Hoult here, was trying to actually do something a little quickly, like, oh shit, a little bit into a discussion and everything. He is asked to sign a piece of paper that, like, hey, I'll give you extra money and this kind of stuff, and this is just a formality, it's in my old language and everything. What it actually is it's something that is basically nullifying his marriage in a sense, and it is a way for basically him to have just carte blanche to take over Ellen. And Ellen also has ties to Orlok as far as her history. She's had nightmares. She's had this stuff. She's had this darkness about her. But Thomas brought, the light back to her. But now the problem is Orlok is back. Orlok has basically gotten Thomas out of the way. He's bitten him. He's done this stuff and everything. And they try to make it where it's almost a sensual, disgusting thing with the vampire biting. And I will say that Eggers captures that pretty well. And the more I think about it, the more I like some of these aspects. But I just don't... Again, just the decisions by some of these characters, like, yeah, Willem Dafoe doesn't know how to kill him, but does know that there's this demonic possession aspect about the whole thing. Aaron Taylor Johnson, meanwhile, his character's kind of silly. I mean, I don't know. His wife, played by Emma Corrin, they have 2 kids and the third on the way. That ends up kind of going tits up when basically there's the ship. They do show a little more on the ship this time. They show a guy's going to try to kill him, and they have nice body horror effects where Orlok basically kills this guy and then kills everybody, and then the ship ends up crashing. But even before that, there was this nice shot where after Thomas tries to get him, he tries to stake him. He's not able to. He actually pickaxe him, and he ends up trying to take off. And he ends up actually having this one point where he gets turned around to open the door. And there's this nice old school Nosferatu shot with a couple dogs. Again, great shots and everything. And if you notice, I'm more talking about the aesthetics than I am talking about the dialogue and everything, because the dialogue is kind of stilted and insipid and bland and not interesting. And delivered at times with gusto, and other times where it's like, Lily Rose, are you in a soma coma? Are you okay? But nevertheless, good shots there. Then Thomas is not doing all that well. He's taken in by these nuns, and they're trying to get like the poison, the darkness, the demonic, nature out of him. And he takes off kind of before he's ready, but just enough where it's like contained to an extent because he has to get back to Ellen. And then Ellen, even the opening scene, she had this nightmare where she, being beckoned and everything, that kind of stuff. Great shot, don't get me wrong. But now Orlok basically says, okay, you don't want to agree to this, even though your husband signed this stuff and everything. Fine, for the next 3 nights, people are going to die until you agree. And, okay, just survive those 3 nights and just make sure it's people you don't like. Oh, wait, no, Emma Corrin dies. It's eaten by rats. The rat stuff's actually kind of nice. And so Aaron Taylor Johnson's all upset, and he kind of ends up getting, he ends up kind of, hugging his wife's corpse. Well, doing more than that, at least it's implied. So he dies. Everybody gets set on fire. Willem Dafoe and Ralph Ineson they're really more than capable actors here. And I mean, Willem Dafoe is very, very good. I don't know. I just kind of wish that these characters just weren't so like one note. Like, I know it's very much of the time period and of the source material, but still, like, hey, we should do that. We should do this. We probably should stop it. Oh, well, we don't know actually how to stop this stuff, but viewers could say, we do, just stake them in the goddamn heart. But anyway, they end up basically trying to get to Orlok's grave. Well, that doesn't end up working out because even though they kill his familiar, they're doing all this, what, Professor Franz was able to see is that Ellen basically has to sacrifice herself. He can't resist her blood. So since he can't resist and since a bunch of stuff was delayed, there's like a ceremony thing, almost like a ritual, where he's getting her blood, this kind of stuff, but the sun comes up, and she manages with her last dying breath to get him up, and he melts off and that kind of stuff. And again, great prosthetics and great look and everything, and that basically is it. And then, yeah, that's the end of that. Goodbye. See ya. I mean, thanks for coming, movie. And that's it. That's pretty much it right there. So, yeah, evil is defeated via blood and tits. I mean, I guess there's nothing really more horror than that. It gets a B. It has really, really great aesthetic, appeal and some decent performances that also feel a little bit muted. I don't know. I don't know what I necessarily expected. I mean, yeah, rehashing is one thing, but this felt like it was unnecessary outside of the technical achievements. That being said, it's still not one of the most unnecessary movies of the year, but just it gets a B for the positives. So agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Rethlin. I'll see you soon.